Hello everyone, welcome back to Halo's Curios after a very long hiatus. Today we're going to be talking about both of these books that came out in the past few months. I'll discuss the pros and cons and whether or not I think they're worth the asking price. And I'll also tell you which one I think you might want if you're on a budget and can only afford one or the other. I'll give you my opinions on that as well. So let's dig right into it. So I'm going to start off with Rozz Williams in his own words, Christian Death and Beyond. This one came out first. Can't quite remember when this one came out. I want to say it was probably December, maybe, of last year. Maybe a little bit before. So this book is written by Dave Thompson. Dave Thompson is a well-known, highly acclaimed music writer. He used to be a music journalist for several magazines, but in the last 20 or so years, maybe even 30 years, he's been writing books about musical artists. I have several of his books. He's an excellent music writer. I love reading his books. I also love the way that Dave Thompson is able to imbue his own personal take on the subject of his book. In this case, with Rozz Williams, Dave Thompson saw Rozz, I believe, in like 83 or 84 when Christian Death did its first European tour. And then Dave Thompson also wrote the introduction to the reunion Christian Death concert at Patriotic Hall, the final show. He wrote the liner notes for that release. In addition to that, Dave and Rozz spoke many times over about a 7-year period from, I believe, 91 until right before Rozz's death, late 97 or early 98. And they spoke in person, they spoke over the phone. There was always this idea that there would be a biography of Rozz Williams one day. And there's a lot of people who could have done it justice, but Dave Thompson, being a fan and also a friend of Rozz, I think was a great choice. With that said, there are some things, I have some critiques about this book that I want to discuss. But first I want to sort of take you through what you will have as a fan in this book and whether or not I'm going to recommend it. So as you can see on this front piece here, Dave Thompson released this in conjunction with Cleopatra Books. And again, as I've said in videos past, whatever your feelings are about Cleopatra, their connection to Rozz Williams, especially in the final decade of his life, are probably as profound as any other point in his career. So you cannot separate Rozz Williams without also having an era of Cleopatra Records. So we do have some incredible photographs in here. Some I'm not sure I've seen before. Linda, I think her last name is Aronow. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. Forgive me if that's wrong. She has taken some incredible photos of Rozz throughout the years. And there's several in here. You have a table of contents, which is great. The book is written in a linear sense, so from Rozz's earliest years all the way through to his final years. is encompassed in here, and that is what you would expect to have in a biography about Rozz. Our interviews in here are primarily from Dave Thompson, but also there's probably about a third of those interviews that are in here are written by Melinda Lewis for different articles that she wrote over the year, and she is also an excellent music journalist. So the two of them together, the interviews blend seamlessly. I feel like with Melinda Lewis, she was able to get a little bit more out of Rozz on a personal level than maybe Dave Thompson was early on. So I really appreciate her connection to some of the deeper aspects to Rozz's personality. There's a foreword here by Constance Redgrave. I want to say about a decade ago, Constance released her own, I want to call it a book. I think it was called Black Box, and it was very limited in quantity. I think that maybe even like the funding fell through, so very few copies actually went out. So there are excerpts in here from Constance's book. And then we have the introduction. And if you'll notice on this page, the larger print that's italicized, those are actually Rozz's words. And then everything else is a mix of like known facts and interviews with other people. And this is how it is throughout the entire book. It was a little disjointed for me when I first opened it, and I couldn't figure out why we had these different sized fonts. And that's what it is. Rozz's words are bold, italicized, and then the smaller print, again, is excerpts from other interviews from other individuals that were associated with Rozz, as well as established facts throughout. What I found particularly fascinating with this book, there are, as a Rozz fan, there's pretty much little I haven't heard over the years regarding Rozz, both truth and not truth. But one of the things I found really intriguing in this book is, despite Rozz's desire not to talk about it again, the years where he had moved from the Only Theater of Pain era into the merging with Pompeii 99, having insight into Rozz's thought process was really fascinating. Because I wasn't really sure, Rozz was tired of Christian Death, I guess, at that point. Like, even though he had signed a 2-record deal with Frontier, by the time Only Theater of Pain was done, he was tired of Christian Death and wanted to do something different. And the only thing that really propelled him to continue going forward with it was an opportunity to go to Europe. That was an invitation enough that Rozz perpetuated a new era of Christian Death. And the insight that you gain too is like Rozz in the studio recording Catastrophe Ballet felt rejuvenated. Like he had shed his whole angst against religious authority and moved into his desire and his love for surrealism and Dadaism, and incorporated that into the album. And it very much, when you listen to the two albums, you very much hear that. I've just always been very fascinated about how much of that album was Pompeii 99 and how much of it was Rozz. So this book gives you a little bit of insight into that, and a peek into the studio as well. And I find that refreshing, because that's stories that I personally haven't heard before. As we get closer to Rozz's final years, I find that the interviews with Rozz become much shorter. He has much less to say, and we have much less of what Rozz's thought processes were. He talks about, the struggle to revisit Christian Death in order to finance Shadow Project. And he talks about his struggle with heroin. He talks about his struggle with just the perception of who he was and how he was this rock star struggling to find enough money to buy a pack of cigarettes. And how his career essentially was an avenue, at the very least, to see the world that he loved. And there are glimmers in here of Rozz and at his highest moments, like his concert in Mexico City, and how proud he was of recording The Horse's Mouth. But sadly, I feel like Rozz's words get fewer and further in between the further we get into the end. Like, I would have loved to have heard about the Philadelphia Dark Harvest Festival and his performance with David E. Williams. I would have loved to have heard more about the Chicago show at Expo of the Extreme. But sadly, those are fringe, and most of the context we have is secondhand. So you can see here we have 2 whole pages of text, and the only words we have from Rozz are no. So that's one of the feelings of this book. And that isn't so much a feeling of the book as it is that Rozz became more withdrawn in those last years, and fewer people had access to him. If you really want a glimpse into that era of Rozz, I recommend Ryan Gomer's book, Ryan Wildstar's book, and What About the Bells. You'll have poetry by Rozz. You'll have insights with somebody that was very close to Rozz. Do I recommend this book? Right now it retails for about $40. And it is essentially our only linear biography of Rozz. So in that context alone, I definitely recommend it. If you're new to Rozz's world or his music, and you're more interested in learning about him, I think this is a great start. You can fill in a lot of gaps and dispel a lot of the crazy stuff that the internet seems to have out there about Rozz and his relationships with people, and the flat out lies that are out there on the web, as it is with most people, right? So this is excellent in that regard. And again, Dave Thompson is a remarkable writer. He's a very talented writer, and it just goes to show the respect that at least music journalists and music critics had for Rozz, even though the contemporary and wider market, chose to turn a blind eye. So what are my critiques of this item? Well, it's, before I even opened the book, I cannot stand the fact that there is an Exocet font on this book. I am so, 13-year-old me loved Exocet font. Me at my age now, not great. It's so unflattering. I think, I have definitely had my critiques of Cleopatra over the years. Rozz did as well. I think a lot of Rozz's fans probably adopted Rozz's critiques of Cleopatra and the production quality that a lot of the releases had. This book definitely feels like something from Cleopatra. And what do I mean by that? The quality is good. Don't get me wrong. It's well done. It's well binded. The pages are glossy. They're thick. This book is going to last a long time. I have no qualms with that. They did a great job. The photography is beautiful. My other issue is, like with most Cleopatra things, I feel like there is a lacking aesthetic when a Cleopatra does a release. I don't know who makes the decisions for the production layouts. I feel like this suffers from that. This cover could have been beautifully done without this mishmash of fonts and just this beautiful photograph of Rozz. Exquisite. But instead we get this counterbalancing this beauty. And it's, I feel like the whole book is like that. How they did Rozz's words, the quotes, I'm not a fan of. It feels very disjointed reading through. And I feel like it could have been done better. Again, I feel like Cleopatra spends very little time on developing the aesthetic of how it's going to look, and they go straight to production. And their product always suffers for it. Like, either you have songs listed in the credits that aren't even on the album, or you have the wrong song. Like, for instance, there's a compilation that has Wolfsheim on it, and because they read up and down instead of left to right, the song that's on the compilation is mistitled. It's stuff like that. And then, like, for the most recent Shadow Project release, Dreams for the Dying, the choice to do a gatefold but didn't do a single LP, and then to remix this, not remix, but choose different songs and omit other songs from the original release. It just shows a poor judgment in aesthetic and presentation. If they ever want to hire me to do their aesthetics for them, I would gladly help out. So just putting that out there. It's frustrating as a fan. And then, like, when you hear fans groan because of something Cleopatra, it all stems from that. It's just a lack of attention to detail. Like, there is no proofreader. There's no editor going back and saying, maybe we should, like, mix this up a little bit. So with that said, that's one thing. There's also other items in here. There's a prolific amount of photos of Ava in here, and I get it, they were married, but this is a book about Rozz, and I have nothing against Ava. Why, with all the photos that are available of Rozz out there, why we chose to do pictures of Ava, full page photos of Ava, it's kind of bewildering. Also in this book, I feel like there was a lacking of Rozz's own words on the formative exploration into punk and death rock. We get a lot from Rozz in his early days, but not a lot about his exploration into punk and death rock, which Mikey Bean's book, Phantoms, definitely delves into in depth. And I don't know if they chose to avoid that, or if that just there was just no interviews of Rozz discussing that. I'm not sure. And then when we get back to the back, there is a gigography / discography, which is an absolute train wreck. It's atrocious. I don't know what the resource was for this, but it is awful. There's many shows missing. I don't know why they bothered to do this if they weren't going to be completists about it. Like, there are other books with discographies and gigographies in it that they could have just simply copied, but they didn't. And then if you notice here, like, what's up with the different size fonts? Why is this one not bold but this one is? It's so bewildering. Different sizes of fonts, and oh my gosh. As somebody who is anal retentive, this is the most frustrating thing I've ever seen in a book. What are you doing? And then finally, well, not finally, actually, there are pictures in here. Let me see if I can find one that I personally am upset that has no, I probably can't find it while I'm looking for it. But it's like the beginning of a chapter, and it's a photo by Gabriel Haas. Everybody knows it's a photo by Gabriel Haas, and there's no credit given to Gabriel, which is frustrating. Gabriel captured Shadow Project and in I think Christian Death as well. on their tour through Florida. So anyway, Gabriel, if you're out there, you know, we know at least the fans, some of the fans know that you took that photo. And lastly, you think would be a great selling point. This book does come with a 7-inch record. And again, beautifully done. The font, okay. You know, at least it's only 2 fonts this time. And both of these songs are from '85. But I gotta say, they decided to remix these 2 songs, Halos and this Mirage. They did a remix of them, and the remixes, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan at all. They also didn't give us any sleeve, so this just sits in here to get scratched up. But I'm probably never going to play it because I don't like the mixes. So I have seen the mixes on, well, they are on Spotify, and they're also on YouTube if you're curious. I think the price tag of this book is heavily reliant on that 7-inch. And I would have rather paid, you know, $20, $25 for this without that 7-inch. To me, it doesn't add anything to this book at all. In fact, it detracts from it. It's a distraction. Should you get this book? Yes, I definitely recommend this book. What is my overall grade of this book? I would give it a B minus. No, I'll give it a solid B. Because there's a lot of information in here. There's a lot of great information in here about Rozz. There's even information in here I didn't know. So for that, it's worthy of having. And again, there is no other complete biography of Rozz from beginning to end. So this is your resource. And is it worth $40? I don't think it's worth $40, honestly. If you can pick it up on the secondhand market, I would do so, but I don't think you're going to be able to. Maybe on eBay for now. You know, I would pick it up. I don't think it's worth $40, but I think you don't really have a choice. So if you can find it for cheaper, do it. If not, you know, don't. All right, so let's move on to this behemoth. Oh, so this is available in several different formats. I chose the box that comes with the book, the poster, and the record, the double LP of Only Theater of Pain. It is so beautifully done. This kind of quality is something that you'll see on a top shelf at, you know, a Borders. Or is it Barnes & Noble? Which one is still around? Anyway, this is that quality. Like in the photography section of a bookstore, this would proudly stand with any book there. The photography of Edward Colver is what fills this book, and he's an incredible photographer. Beautiful black and white photography. He captured so many bands of the early punk era and death rock era of LA. He is synonymous with that era of Los Angeles and Hollywood, and he is as much a part of that scene as any band that emerged from it. He captured everyone. His photographs adorn countless albums from the era, and he's just a remarkable photographer. And in this book, we finally get to see like the full photo sessions from glimpses that we've had from album covers or magazines throughout the past, or even Edward's showings. We get a full range of photography in here that captures that era. This is a very heavy slipcase. I would say this probably weighs 5 or 6 pounds, if not more. Here's the spine, or at least one side. Let me flip that over. So this was done in conjunction with Cult Epics. Those are the same people. That's Nico B. That is his label that produced Pig. Obviously, the art of Rozz Williams from Christian Death to Death. We also had some great live material from Nico's label in the past few years. And then it's also done in conjunction with Frontier, you can see there. Beautiful. I have this on display. I wish, and I thought I had picked up another one. I just want another one that I can keep sealed forever. Pass down to my son, maybe. So I will probably pick up another one at some point. If you go this route with the book, the poster, and the record, I think it's retailing, I think it's 120. If that's wrong, I'll put links in the description of the video. The book itself, you can pick up the book. It's in hardcover and softcover. And I think the softcover runs around $40, the same price as the other Rozz book we looked at. The hardcover, I think, is selling for like $60 right now. And I definitely recommend picking it up without hesitation. If you're going to purchase something, if you're going to purchase this set and money is tight, at least get the book because it's beautifully done. Everything that Nico does is very high quality. He doesn't skimp. He takes his time. The presentation is beautiful. He has a good aesthetic eye, and he does not give us crap. I feel like maybe the live records could have used a little bit more imagery of Rozz and Jatan, but at least with this, he does Ed Colver proud. He does Rozz proud, and there's also a signed edition of this. If you're really wanting to go all out, it's like $240. And I think you can get it signed by everyone that's still alive, including Rozz's brother, Larry. So, that is out there. There's not very many of those. I think there was 100 maybe. All right, so let's open this up. Let's talk about the book. Yes. Again, this is... Let me see if I can zoom out just... There we go. So this is, again, the photography of Edward Colver. He captures Rozz from a very brief period of 1981 to 1982, about when Christian Death sort of like evaporates prior to the formation with Pompeii 99. With that said, it's not just photographs, as beautiful as that is. Nico also interviews several people that were part of Rozz's formative musical endeavors. So, it's so beautiful, this book, how well it's laid out, how big it is. Also a table of contents. We get an introduction from Nico. And then there are some photos from a journal that at one time was in my possession. So we have Victoria Gray. We have Jill Emery. We have Steve Darrow, John Albert. We have Ron Athey. So all of those people are in Rozz's formative years when he's first starting to explore music, create music. And I think the interviews with them are very personal, and not a lot that hasn't been revealed before, but still, I think in the context of this book, and if this is all you have, I think it's really beautifully incorporated into the spread of these pages. And then we move into the emergence of Christian Death. So we start with Edward Colver. And his insights and why he was drawn to Rozz and Christian Death. And then we have George Belanger, the drummer from Only Theater of Pain. Nice, thick pages. So well done. I'm so impressed by this book. And then we have Rikk Agnew. And he has quite a bit to say. And then we have James, the bassist, and then Lisa Fancher, who ran Frontier Records and signed Christian Death. And then the photos start. And I love that each section of photographs starts with Ed Colver's reminiscing. So I don't want to like go page by page because I think that's a disservice to, you know, anyone that should be buying the book. I'm not here to just do a page by page turn for everybody. So there are dozens of photographs in here I've never seen before. Have probably never been released. Maybe at some of the showings that Edward's done. So, and then you have little snippets throughout from different shows, from different people that were involved. It's just so great. It's so well done. The photography is so beautiful. And Rozz is just so charismatic. It makes, you know, I feel like I want to be there in that crowd to experience that. Like, this is the closest I felt ever to being like in these, among these fans, seeing Christian Death maybe for the first time and what was going on. There's no videos, unfortunately. None have surfaced from the early 80s of Christian Death, not until the media blitz that they do. And then there's a concert in 84. I think that's the earliest concert we have of concert footage we have. So this is the book. It's you know, you got pictures from the journal that is also from this time frame, and it has the original lyrics for the songs that would appear on Only Theater of Pain, as well as Hell Comes to Your House soundtrack, Deathwish EP. Just incredible, like so well thought out and planned. The fact that I've waited, that feels like 2 years for this book, it feels worth it. I feel like I obtained something like a work of art. If this feels like a work of art, that's what it feels like, as opposed to the other book that feels like a biography. This feels like I bought an artistic expression of something, and I love it, and it was well worth the money that I spent. So what are my drawbacks? This page, as you can see, a friend of mine and I discussed this briefly about how this sort of is a waste of page. This is just a blown up photo of a segment of another photo. And I don't know what the thought process was for doing this. I don't know if it was to fill the book with more pages. But it feels kind of like cheating. I don't know, maybe it was to present more detail. Like there's one of Rozz's feet from the Pomona Cemetery. And it's just a blow up of an existing photo. So I'm not sure what the aesthetic choice to do that was. It's kind of detracting, but it's not detracting in, say, the other book where we have photos of things that have no context, like churches and I don't know, like just things that have nothing to do with Rozz that are in that other book that I don't even know why they included. It felt cheap. I really have no complaints other than that about the book itself. The book is just so beautiful and so well done. I appreciate everything about it. The blown up photos aside. So, I do have other critiques though, and the poster is nice to have. I'm not going to unfold it. I'll frame it one day, maybe. I don't know. I have such limited wall space. This is probably my only complaint, is the vinyl. Did I need another copy of Only Theater of Pain? Not really. But in early discussions, there was hope that maybe our second album wouldn't be Deathwish and then these other tracks that have already been released. We hoped that maybe they would incorporate a live show from that era. There's plenty to choose from. There's even some that are very high quality that could have been used and cleaned up. You know, Nico has shown a mastery of taking audience audio and turning them into something special. And that opportunity's definitely existed. But instead, we got Deathwish and we got these other tracks that have been released via record store day singles or expanded versions of Only Theater Pain. It's a disappointment, honestly. I did not need all of those songs again. Yeah, but I am happy that I have this slipcase, and I feel like that was probably the only way I was going to get it. I'm not sure if that was the only way I was going to get it. I'm not sure if the hardcover book comes with a slipcase or if you have to purchase the vinyl as well. So this is my biggest disappointment. I'm probably not even going to open this. I don't even know if it's on any kind of colored vinyl. I have no idea. I mean, I'm curious if if this is the remastered version of Only Theater Pain, if anyone has fixed the Void and Resurrection that recently was surfaced. I didn't even know about it till it was pointed out to me recently. So, do I recommend this book? Absolutely. If you had to choose between the two, your budget only allowed for one, I would ask yourself this question: do I want to know more about Rozz because I don't know quite enough, or do I want a beautiful piece of art that captures Rozz? If you want the biography, definitely pick up the Cleopatra Dave Thompson book. If you're looking for an artistic piece, definitely pick up this Edward Colver Nico B. Cult Epics book. This hardcover, I think, is $60. Softcover, I think, is the same price as this. So, depending on your budget, I think you have options. And again, it's, do you want a bio with a few beautiful photos that are rare, or do you want this piece of art that also has interviews and gives you some context about this era of Christian death, but it's very limited between 2 years. So you get Rozz's story over here, or you can have 2 years of Rozz's life here. That's your choice to make. And that's really all I have to say about it. If for me, the aesthetics of this book outweigh what can be gleaned from the other book. And I'm also coming from a perspective where I've been blessed with knowing a lot about Rozz's life through the people that knew him and the people that have researched him. For a younger fan, that may not be true, and you may be relying on Reddit or the internet or YouTube to tell you all those stories, and a lot of them are false or misleading or out of context. So at least with the Cleopatra book, you have a resource of information that can be trusted. But again, my aesthetic draws me to this because it's so well done. There's photos of Rozz I've never seen before, and Edward Colver, again, is a remarkable photographer. So you have Dave Thompson, that's a critically acclaimed author, and you have Ed Colver, that is a critically acclaimed photographer. And it's really amazing that we got both of these books within months of one another. After, a void of so many years, exceptions being And What About the Bells by Ryan Wildstar, Phantoms by Mikey Bean, and then there was also a comic that you can still get on Amazon by Lauren, I want to say it's Lauren Richards, that is also insightful as well. So with that said, that's the end of the video. Feel free to leave your comments below. Which one did you buy? Did you buy them both? What did you think of the songs on the 7-inch? Are you happy with the Only Theater of Pain double vinyl? Let me know. So I'm curious to hear what other people have to say. This is just my opinion. So hopefully you'll take it as that and not beat me up in the comments. But with that said, on to the next video.